afternoon. My name is Marnay Morgan, a proud member of Black Funders of St. Louis, and I want to thank all of you for joining us today. This event is presented by Black Funders of St. Louis, a local giving circle. Our members are Black people from all walks of life. We agreed to make an annual contribution of $300 or more, which is then pooled together with donations from non-members to award grants to Black-led nonprofit organizations in St. Louis every year. I'm pleased to share that this is week 3 in celebration of Black Philanthropy Month. Our first week was Grant Writing 101. Second week, Grant Info session. And then this week, I'm excited that we're going to have a presentation on human resources to grow your organizations. But first, a little bit about Black Philanthropy Month. It is observed every August and is recognized as a global celebration and concerted campaign to elevate African descent giving. BPM was launched in 2011, and since then, it has reached around 17 million people and grown to be a year-round initiative that illuminates the ingenuity and transformative impact of generosity in Black communities across the nation. The chief objectives of BPM is to inform, involve, inspire, and invest in Black philanthropic leadership to strengthen African American and African descent giving in all of its forms for the benefit of our planet, our communities, and our organizations and our lives. And that is exactly the basis for Black Funders of St. Louis. And we are proud to take part in Black Philanthropy Month in August and throughout the year. We are a local giving circle, as I mentioned, and our work is rooted firmly in the pursuit of racial equity and a desire to have an inclusive St. Louis. There are several ways that you can make an impact during this month. First, you can consider becoming a member of Black Funders, or you can consider webinar sessions like this. Before we get into today's presentation, a few housekeeping items I'd like to share. First, this is being broadcast live on Black Funders Facebook page. It will be available in a recorded format on the website and or the YouTube channel after today's session. Please use the chat feature to include any questions that you may have for today's presenter. If you're not on the Zoom session and you're joining us via Facebook Live, please use the comment section for your questions. Again, today's session, we're going to explore how effective HR systems can effectively grow your organization. So with that, I'd like to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Tiffany E. Slater. She's a member of the Society for Human Resource Management, and she's also a senior certified professional. She is the CEO and senior human resources consultant for HR Tailor-Made. They are the HR solution for small businesses. HR Tailor-Made is a human resource consulting company specializing in helping small businesses and nonprofit organizations manage and retain their best talent. Tiffany has over 25 years of HR experience in a variety of industries. She actually left a very successful career in search of a work-life balance. Through HR Tailor Made, Tiffany has been able to create joyful work experiences for herself as well as others. She is a lifelong learner. Besides spending time with family and friends, one of Tiffany's greatest joys is sharing her experience to inspire others to push towards and reach their highest level of achievement. One of Tiffany's greatest joys is inspiring others, which is why she is so passionate about helping small businesses attract and retain their best talent. Her live series, Conversations with Consultants, highlight necessary resources that help life and work as a business owner easier, creating an environment that promotes joy for the owner and their team. Tiffany is in her happy place when at the spa, watching movies, or having tickle fest with her two boys and her husband. Having great conversations with other women about successes, failures, and life in general fill her cup. Overall, family and friends create the ultimate safe zone and happy place when Tiffany is not hard at work. So without further ado, I'm excited to present our speaker for today's webinar, Dr. Tiffany E. Slater.
Well, thank you so much, Miss Mornay. You did such a great job. I'm going to have to take you on the road with me. So thank you so much for that. I'm really excited to have this conversation with everyone today and to share my knowledge for the purpose of helping others. And I really think that HR is one of those concepts that everyone thinks they know, but you really don't until you've worked in an HR department. You don't really know all of the ins and outs of what should be happening in that area, because it's more than hiring and firing, and it's more than onboarding. It's a lot more than that. So we're going to get into that this afternoon. So thank you. So as Ms. Mornay explained to you all, I have over 25 years of experience in human resources. I'm a business owner. I have 6 contractors. I have 2 boys, and my husband is an entrepreneur as well. He's a basketball coach, a golf coach, and I am a graduate of the Diverse Business Accelerator program through the Regional Chamber here in St. Louis. So with that being said, I am a small business owner who also has the same HR challenges that could exist in your organizations. And so this is information that I pulled together as a result of the things that I was experiencing that I thought that others would find helpful. And so we'll talk about today, HR, what is it? An HR system of an effective HR department, and HR and business growth. So before we start, I want to share this quote with you. It's actually one of my favorite quotes. Train people well enough so they can leave. Treat them well enough that they don't have to. What does that mean to you? What it means to me is that as employers, it's our job first and foremost to create amazing employees. And we do that by ensuring that they have the tools that they need to be successful in that job. That means the training, that means ongoing feedback and constructive feedback, and also opportunities to help them grow and stretch their knowledge. And so it's HR's job to create and implement strategies to ensure that you retain your best talent. So what is HR? As you think about the definition of HR, let me tell you what activities are actually associated with HR. So let's break it down. Here's the Google definition of HR. But what does this actually mean? What is the result of these actions? And what the heck goes into administration, hiring, and training? And honestly, if you look at any management job description, you will find these same words in those job descriptions. So let's go a little deeper. So for startups, these activities and tasks should be the focus of your HR work. You should be working to get the work done, the processes and policies and procedures in place. These functions will always be a part of the HR work. But as you grow your organization, these things should be done and structured in a way that contributes to the overall success of the organization. So for organizations that are in the growth phase, you need an HR strategy. All of these activities listed here should be leading to something and measured as such. So these items on the list include creating job descriptions, managing unemployment claims, reviewing applicants, ensuring that your applicants are performing performance tasks so that they can demonstrate for you what they're able to do and their skills and knowledge before you actually hire them. It includes training programs, making sure that your people have the adequate training to be successful. Performance improvement strategies. So when employees are struggling, you actually have ways and recommendations for them so that they can grow and improve in that area. Sometimes you'll have to do the dirty work and do investigations, depending on the size of your team. You always have to be legally compliant. Management consultations. And so if you have managers that report to you, they're going to need guidance. They're going to run into employee-related situations that they don't know how to address and handle. So that's something that you as the owner will have to step in and make sure is happening, or your HR person can do that. You always have to maintain employee records. And you should always have an HR strategy, no matter how minimal, or not minimal, but how simplistic it is. And so here's an example of an HR strategy. These strategies are developed to realize the goal. And the goal here, for example, is to reduce employee turnover by 15%. Our strategy is to strengthen our leadership capacity. And how will we do that? We'll do that by implementing these tactics. We're going to define our leadership levels. We're going to conduct leadership training, and we're going to conduct 360-degree surveys. Our strategy, another strategy, I should say, is to improve the performance feedback process. And those are the tactics that we'll use to obtain that strategy or realize that strategy, and so on and so forth. So as you grow, your strategic plan for HR should support the overall strategic plan for your organization. So let me repeat that. As you grow, your strategic plan for HR should support the strategic plan for your organization. And so as you look at this particular goal, how could that possibly support the overall strategic plan for your organization? Well, you want to increase your profit level, right? In your organization. I would imagine that that is a part of every strategic plan, right? So a way to improve your profit margin is to reduce employee turnover, and HR can have an influence on that. You reduce employee turnover and save money because turnover has real costs associated with it. A lot of people don't look at it that way because they're thinking, oh, okay, I'll just get another person. But think about how much time you're spending on reviewing applications, interviewing candidates, posting the job, how much money you're spending on actually posting the job. And what if you pay for a recruiting firm to actually help you fill your positions? That's money out the door. Also, what about all the money you spent to train the last person that is out the door that you're now going to have to spend again to train this new person? And so what if you're doing all of this? How much is your time worth? How much do you pay yourself? Because if you think about it in those terms, Let's say you pay yourself $150 an hour, $50 an hour, whatever the number is. Multiply that times the number of hours it takes you to post and train a new employee and get them up to speed so that they are fully functional and are successful in their job. That's how much money turnover costs you for that particular role. So think about that when considering turnover. So, one of the things that is just so true in this instance is cheaper to keep her, right? I know we've all heard that. It is absolutely true here in the retention space as it relates to your employee and your clients. And so as you develop your plan, these are just a few metrics that you can use to determine strategic success and effectiveness. Turnover, we just talked about that. Turnover by manager. So let's say you run a cleaning company and you have 4 managers. What if there's one manager who just continues to recycle employees? They cannot keep a person on their team. Then you know that you don't have an organization-wide turnover problem. You have a manager problem. So time to fill. How much time is a position vacant? That's costing you money because you're either having to pay overtime for someone else to do that work, or you are having to go without fulfilling client requests. Absence rate. How frequent are your people off work? That's costing you money for the same reason as the time to fill metric is costing you money. Absence by manager. Are people not coming to work for specific managers because they don't like that person? Diversity, race, age, sex. Run your numbers. Do you have all of the same working in your organization? And if you do, and that's the way that you want to set up your organization, that's great. And we also want to make sure that we remember that managing or tracking our diversity numbers can help us understand, are we reflecting our clientele? Are we making sure that we are great examples in the environment, depending on who it is we're working with? Are we showing people, are we walking the talk is what I want to say? Are we talking about diversity, but we don't have a diverse group of employees inside of our organization? Just things to consider. Cost per hire. We talked a little bit about that when we talked about turnover. You need to consider that. How much does it cost you to fill a cashier position as opposed to a manager's position? Does it cost the same? Does it cost more? Does it cost less? That's important to know. Employee productivity rates. Do you have one employee that just knocks it out of the park and is able to take 25 phone calls in an hour, and you have another that's only able to take 5? You've got some things going on there. Either they're not trained effectively enough, that's not, their strong suit, and maybe they're better suited at doing something else, or maybe they just don't like the job, and that's just something you need to figure out. But understanding employee productivity rates is important. Training effectiveness. How effective is your training? Your new hire orientation, your onboarding, the training that you provide your new employees. How long does it take them to get up to speed on doing their job? If it's taking them more than a month to get comfortable in the work that you have them doing, you need to make sure you review your training procedures. And how do you do that? You talk to the employee. You ask them, what could we have done better for you to make sure you were successful in this role sooner rather than later? What else can we provide you with training on so that you can be an outstanding employee? Another thing that is important, employee happiness. I've heard so many people say, I don't care if they like me or if they like working here. I just need them to do the job. Well, I think COVID has taught us all something very different. Employees need to like where they work. They need to like the people that they work with. That's important. I certainly don't want to work in an organization that I don't like to brag about, or where the people drive me crazy. I wouldn't want to go to that place every day. So it's our job to measure that. And that's simply through having conversations with employees. One of the things we do for our clients are called stay interviews. We have conversations with their employees once a year, and we ask questions to get at to get an understanding of, if you were to leave, what would be the reasons? So then we can give that information to our clients and say, hey, this is what they're saying, and here are some of the things that we recommend that we can do or that you should do, so that we can make sure that we keep your best employees. Source of hire, you want to track where you get your best people from. That's important. And then pay equity. Look and compare so that you understand how you're paying people. Are you paying all the men more or less than you're paying the women? Are you paying transgendered populations more or less than you're paying heterosexual populations? Those are things you need to look at, because employees talk. As much as we tell people don't talk about pay, honestly, I tell people not to talk about pay, because there are just some conversations that people cannot handle. And it's not because, I have a desire to not be transparent, but if I have 20 years experience and you have 5, it's expected that I make more than you, but some people can't handle that conversation. So just to keep everybody safe and innocent, those conversations from my perspective should be off limits. Okay, so I believe that if all of these components that are listed here in the HR tailor-made system for effective HR, if they're done well, that employee retention will be minimal. Policies and procedures should be well documented, communicated, and executed with consistency. Employee engagement should always be the goal, and about giving them a reason to feel connected to the organization. Make them feel valued and safe. Ensuring that team members are aware of their work, of how their work contributes to the overall mission of the organization. That is so important. I'm sure there are times when many of us have had jobs where we looked around and we're like, okay, I know we're doing stuff here, but what is my role? How do I help to improve the life experience of our clients? Whatever the purpose or mission of the organization is, employees want to know what their role is and how they help to kick the ball down the field. Effective leadership is essential to the overall culture. It impacts how employees treat others, including your customers. It impacts attendance, turnover, employee satisfaction, productivity, and so much more. I could really go on and on about all of the ways that effective leadership impacts our teams and the workplace. If you do these 3 things well, hiring, training, and retaining your best staff will be simple, or keeping your best staff will be simple. However, they also have to be executed well. You can't just slap together an employee handbook and some policies and procedures and not know that they are exactly what your organization needs. You can't just send out an employee survey and call that employee engagement. And you can't just read all of the great John Maxwell books on leadership and Simon Sinek books and say that you're an effective leader. You have to execute effectively. And so let's talk a little bit about HR and business growth. So obviously, there are several factors that contribute to an employee's desire to stay with a company. But HR, however, can determine the reasons employees are leaving or have a desire to leave and implement strategies to address those concerns. That's not to say that you as the organization leader or as the business owner can't do this, but it is unlikely that team members will be as candid with you as they will be with an HR department or HR consultant. HR can ensure legal compliance and therefore protect your bottom line. So let me tell you a little story. I have a client that came to me as a result of having been fined $40,000 for a Fair Labor Standards Act violation. Many of you are like, what is that? What is Fair Labor Standards Act? Well, that is the law that essentially establishes the minimum wage and several other things. And so the Department of Labor provides general oversight of the Fair Labor Standards Act. And this particular client didn't know that the law had changed and that she needed to increase the amount of money that she was paying her exempt employees per week to ensure that she was satisfying the law to avoid having to pay overtime. That's the simplest way that I can explain it. But the important thing to remember here is that as business owners and founders, organizational leaders, it is impossible for us to wear all of the hats, for us to do and be all of the things, and for us to be experts in everything. When it comes to legal compliance, it's so important that we ensure that we are partnering with the right people so that they can keep us abreast of things that we know that we need to know, so that they can break them down in ways that are easy for us to understand and execute in our business. Very, very important. Having an HR partner can save you time. The things that you may spend time on researching and learning, the HR person likely already knows or has a quicker way of finding the answer. So HR partners can field employee questions, can coach managers, and can coach you. And so these are things that can potentially take you out of your element. Again, get the right person on your team to help you with these specific issues. Make sure that you are not just working yourself into a sleep coma because you're spending all of this time trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. If you started your business or your organization to help other people, I don't think that doing HR and being the CFO and being the marketing person fits into that reason or purpose for which you started your business. So remember, get some great experts on your team because one, we can save you time. And two, it's smarter because it's impossible for you to know how to do everything and to actually do everything well. And so we've talked about what HR is, the system for effective HR, and how HR can help grow your business. You'll be just fine if you remember to do your homework, gather the information that you need to make the best decisions for your team. Ask for help. It's impossible for you to know everything. Ask those with expertise to help you with the things you are not an expert in. And know your numbers. Track the metrics that inform you about the workplace and employee experiences. And here are just a few organizations that can help you. One, a lot of payroll companies now are providing HR assistance. So if you have a question about something, a lot of those companies can answer those payroll related questions for you. There's an organization called Think HR. I'm not sure if you as an individual company can partner with them for HR assistance, but one of my clients who is a small business, through their insurance broker, they have access to Think HR. So they have online trainings that is a part of that. And they also have the option for the business owner to chat with an HR expert. So just an idea of some of the things that you can do. One of the things that I want to leave you with that is more important than anything is for you to know your numbers. And Miss Marnay, I am at the point where I can take questions. You're on mute.
Oops, I was muted. First of all, Dr. Slater, we want to thank you so much for the time presenting to us today. This very, very, very important subject. Some very helpful nuggets came from what you shared, particularly around having an HR activity list. You know, that's something that, you know, you think about a checklist when you're on task doing assignments, but an HR activity list, that was very important. Legal compliance, that's something that, again, that we just don't think about when we're onboarding people into different roles. Particularly, you mentioned leadership and management level roles. You have to be legal compliant. Talking about looking at sound record keeping for your employees, the development of HR strategies. And what I found particularly helpful is the analogy that you used in calculating how much time it costs you for turnover. So in the absence of having that sound HR strategy, you are literally losing money.
Yes.
So I just appreciate the opportunity to hear what you shared with us today. And I think we can begin with the first question. What would be the key differences for HR strategies as it relates to nonprofit organizations versus a for-profit organization?
Not much, quite honestly. I mean, because an employee is an employee, quite frankly. So not much of a difference. The only thing that I can think of, and I have both nonprofit clients and for-profit clients, and honestly, the work that we do for both is very similar. The only thing that is slightly different is the function of the board. And so, whereas in a nonprofit organization, a lot of times the board has to approve certain things. In a for-profit, the CEO is like, okay, Tiffany, yep, go ahead, go make that happen. You know, so that's really the only thing I can think of. The other thing that is a nuance for nonprofit organizations is the whole volunteer piece. And, you know, what do you do for onboarding volunteers? But for me, that is the same as what you would do for an employee. There are some things that you don't need to share with your volunteers. Obviously, they're not going to get paid, so you don't need to talk about payroll. So, but yeah, you need to onboard your volunteers. They are representing your organization. They are providing a service to people. So it's not really different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next question. What is the first thing you would recommend for an individual who is starting a nonprofit organization as it involves human resources?
Yeah, so, and I really think that the checklist that is going to be sent out to everyone, or the link to the checklist will be helpful for that. Because one of the things you want to do when you first start imagining what you want your organization to be, you need to figure out, okay, who do I need on the team to make this happen? And so as you think about that, a lot of organizations first start with a virtual assistant, or they first start with independent contractors. So you start there, but then what? What do you want them to do? You need to figure out who's on the bus, where you're going to put them, what seat they're going to sit on in the bus. So the first thing you want to do is imagine what you want your organization to be and look like, and then who do you need on the bus in order to make that happen. And the checklist that will be made available to you all actually helps you process or gives you a quick way of thinking about all that you need to consider before you make that first hire.
Great. Can you expound a little bit, Dr. Slater, on the checklist itself? Can
Yeah.
you just give us some iterations of those key points?
Yeah, so the checklist really just walks through all the things that you should know when before you hire somebody, and all of the things that you should consider and do research about before you hire someone. For example, before you hire someone, and this is a W-2 employee, not an independent contractor, you need to know how you're going to pay them. Are you going to pay them through QuickBooks, or do you need to get a payroll system? You need to know what the taxes are going to be like. So I tell people to use a 25% estimate. So whatever you plan to pay that person annually, let's say you plan to pay them $100,000 annually. Well, you need to add 25% onto that for taxes, for unemployment, for Social Security, for FICA, all of that. So that's it. Then do you need to have unemployment insurance? And at what point, how many employees does your state require that you have before you get unemployment insurance? In Illinois, you only need one employee, and then you need work comp insurance, not unemployment, work comp insurance. In Missouri, I believe it's 5 employees. So you need to know there are nuances based on where you live, and there are nuances based on the number of employees you have. Once you hit the 50 mark, in terms of the number of employees, the laws change again. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was very important. So from a HR lens, what are some of the critical components for effective leadership?
Yeah. And so I'll say that it's not necessarily from an HR lens.
Okay.
For me, a leader is a leader is a leader. You have good leaders and you have bad leaders. But at the end of the day, when you look at them and their qualities and their characteristics, they pretty much all have the same. So if you compare Hitler to Martin Luther King, they were both leaders. One did good things, one did not so good things, but they were all able to move people towards a vision that they had. Mm-hmm. They communicated effectively, whatever that looked like, effectively enough to get people on their bus to go to where they were going. So that's one thing about effective leadership. And in an organization, one of the things that I hold near and dear is vulnerability.
Okay.
I think it's very important for leaders to be able to be vulnerable with their team members, because your team needs to know that that you understand where they are and that you can relate, because that makes you human. That makes it such that people want to be a part of your team. If I can stand here and say to my team members, hey guys, I'm having a really rough day. My kids are home from school today, and it is so hard for me to focus. You know what that does to the team? That makes them say, oh, well, when I have that, I can go to Tiffany and say the same thing. And I'm hoping, will be understanding. But you got to be vulnerable first for people to understand that you're not just a clock watcher. You're not just sitting there and say, oh, you only worked 5 minutes. You owe me 10 minutes because you were 10 minutes late from lunch. That, some of that stuff is unproductive. So that's one thing. Effectively communicating, making sure that you support people as human beings and as team members. If I come to you and you're my supervisor and I say, you know what, I really love working for you in this widget making space, but I have a desire to start my own cosmetology business. A good leader is going to say, Tiffany, that is amazing. What can I do to help you get there?
Uh-huh.
Because we want all of our team members to win and experience joy in their work, whether it's for us or for somebody else.
Yes, that's so true.
So that's just a few things. There's so many things that are, I think,
those are very helpful, though.
Yeah.
In considering the nonprofit organizational structure, what are some of those factors to consider with internal HR component versus outsourcing that? What are some of those key factors to consider in that space?
I really, for the nonprofit space, really for either one of the big factors is cost, right? If you outsource HR, you don't have a monthly, or I mean, you have a monthly cost, but you don't have an employee cost, right? You don't have to worry about providing a computer for me. You don't have to worry about paying for health insurance or providing health insurance. You don't have to worry about unemployment costs. All you do is pay the fee that pay the invoice at the end of the month, and you're done. So that's one of the things. The other thing that could be of great benefit as it relates to outsourcing and versus bringing someone in-house is with a firm, with an organization, you will have the benefit of having more than one person. If that firm has more than one person that is doing HR work. So for example, I'm going on vacation Thursday, but I have 3 people that can answer calls and assist clients while I'm gone. If it were, perhaps you had one HR person in your organization, when that person's on vacation, that person is on vacation. And the other thing is, by having additional people on the team, everybody brings a different level of expertise and experience as well. And as a client of an organization like that, you get that benefit.
Great. Another question, or actually just a request to kind of elaborate on, you talked about previously equitable pay and what that should look like internally. What are some of the considerations when you're talking about a nonprofit environment, limited resources, but wanting at the same time to be competitive, to attract really, really good high-level employees with reducing turnover, as you talked about? What are some of those things we should consider to be competitive in light of those nonprofit challenges that we have?
Yeah. So a couple things. One, money is not everything. And it really isn't. We can see that now with the great, what they're calling the resignation migration, everybody quitting as a result of COVID, because COVID taught us there is more to life than money and spending more time working. So what does that mean for employers, nonprofit and for-profit? That means that we have to find other ways of ensuring joy in the workplace that don't always hit the bottom line or hit you in the pocket, right? So does that mean mental health days? Does that mean flexible work schedules? Does that mean remote work? Does that mean that your employees, if they're studying for a certification, that you allow them time at work or time off during the day to study and prepare for that? So you have to get creative. One of the things you have to do is talk to your people. They'll tell you what they want. They'll tell you what they want. The other thing that is super important too is being a nonprofit does not let you all nonprofit founders off the hook for paying a fair wage, right? Not that you wouldn't want to,
right?
Budget, may not allow you to. But if you want to get good people that have the skills that you're looking for, you've got to at least be in the ballpark of what everybody else is paying.
When you're talking about, and thank you
Yes.
for that. When you're talking about looking at competitive pay and compensation,
Mhm.
what are some of the resources people can turn to make sure that they're in line with a sound competitive rate?
Yeah. So, there are some free resources out there. They're not um, completely as reliable as doing your own, salary study. That's time consuming. But what I do when I just want a quick reference and to check my thinking on pay, I go to salary.com. It's free.
Okay.
I
Okay.
look at Zip Recruiter. I look at Indeed. I look to see what other people are paying for the same position that I'm posting for.
That's really good advice.
Yeah.
When you talked a little bit about the pandemic and the impact and just the shift in the mindset and thinking around where we really value or how we really value our time, our families, in looking at work versus, I like what you said, the home life balance.
Yeah.
What are some tips or strategies that you can share to really capture a cohesive connection between in person or in office versus remote work?
Yeah. It is hard. It is hard. Let's be clear, because at the end of the day, we are human beings and we were made for connection. Excuse me, and connecting virtually has created its own challenges. But what I'll say is think about those things you were doing in the office.
Mm.
How can you now do it virtually? For example, one of the things that I miss about working for other people, it's not many things I miss, but this one thing I miss is the coffee chats in the morning where everybody's getting their coffee and they're just chatting about what they watched on TV last night, or my husband did this, or my children. I miss that. Right? So how can you recreate that in the virtual space? Set up an 8 a.m. coffee chat in the morning, every morning. No agenda. Just come in with your coffee. Let's just chat. Let's remember that we're
I
still a
like that.
team. Yeah. And then the other thing that you could do is have checkpoints during the day where everybody just pops on a Zoom or a WebEx, whatever you use, for 15 minutes. Go around the circle. Hey, what's your top 3 for today? What are you stuck on? What do you need from me? Everybody just goes around. And so everybody gets to hear what everybody's working on, and you get to collaborate just for that quick second. And it serves several purposes. It allows for connection. And it also cuts down on those interruptions throughout the day, because I know, well, I'm going to connect with them again at 2:00, and then I'm going to connect with them again at 5 before we leave for the day. So I'm just going to write down my questions, and then I'll get what I need then. So that's another thing. Some of the other things that my clients have done, they've exchanged names secretly, and they've sent each other lunch. So if I got your
Wow.
name, I would DoorDash lunch to you on whatever day we all agreed to, and we would all come together and, have lunch together, and you would share what you got. And then that person would say who they were and why they sent that specific thing to you. So that's another thing. I have another client that creates games, and each team is like a group. Harry Potter was a theme one time. So each group had their own theme, and they all dressed up according to the theme for that particular meetings for that month. And I mean, it was just fun. They did competitions about candy bars, like what's your favorite candy bar and which one is going to win. I mean, there's so many ways to keep people engaged. Is it more work? Absolutely. We're using a completely different muscle being here in this virtual space, but it's doable.
Dr. Slater, those are excellent strategies. Very, very creative. And
Yeah.
it's hitting the key issue, which is staying connected.
Yes.
Albeit you are remote, but you're keeping those ties and you're collaborating in light of your being remote. So I cannot thank you enough. And I'm sure that all of the participants who have joined us today have enjoyed hearing your presentation around the importance of having a good, strong human resource component within your organization, be it nonprofit or for-profit. So thank you so much today. I'm going to hand it off to Miranda to close us out today.
Good afternoon, everyone. First, thank you to Dr. Slater for providing her expertise today on HR. I think we all learned a lot in terms of the information that was shared, and we can all think of how we can apply this information to our nonprofit organizations. As Dr. Slater stated, we are not exempt. So we have to abide by the rules as well. And so HR comes up a lot. And so we hope that today you all have found value in today's conversation. And Dr. Slater is a resource should you need any HR consultation. So thank you again, Dr. Slater, for your time today and providing us great information around HR and organizational growth. In addition to thanking Dr. Slater, I would like to thank you all for making yourselves available today for today's conversation. It is Black Philanthropy Month, and during this month, we have a series of webinars. Our next and last webinar is next Tuesday with Dr. Vetter Sanders Thompson. It's a part 2. So we did a webinar earlier this year around program evaluation, and due to high demand, there's been a request for a part 2, and Dr. Vetter Sanders Thompson has agreed to facilitate a part 2. So please feel free to join us next Tuesday, August 24th, the same time. Registration is required. There's a link on our website. You can register by our website. There's links on our Instagram as well as our Facebook, Black Funders STL. So feel free to do registration. In addition to webinars, during Black Philanthropy Month, today is National Nonprofit Day. So we want to acknowledge all of our nonprofit organizations throughout the region and around the world, and the work that you are doing to contribute to the success of our region, as well as our world. So thank you in acknowledging nonprofits today on National Nonprofit Day. In addition to our webinars, Black Philanthropy Month grant cycle is open. It's open until August 31st. Organizations that are Black-led, organizations budgets under $250,000 and who are already focused on civic engagement, check out this funding opportunity. Funding cycle closed August 31st at 4 p.m. Information is on our website at blackfunders.stl.com. You can download the application and email your application over. Again, our grant cycle is open through August 31st and closes at 4 p.m. Again, thank you all for your time today. During Black Philanthropy Month, we encourage everyone to consider how they can get involved. And getting involved can vary. It can be becoming a member. It could be making a donation, as well as sharing our information with your personal and/or professional networks. This work requires all of us. And so thinking about all of these Black-led nonprofit organizations here in St. Louis and how we can support them, it requires a lift. And so we're asking you all to consider how you can make a donation, either giving back your time and your talent, considering becoming a member, as well as circulating information to your personal and/or professional networks. Again, we recognize Black Philanthropy Month, and we encourage you all to figure out how you can support Black Philanthropy Month as well. Again, thank you to Dr. Slater for your time today, and thank you all for joining us. This concludes today's webinar. Again, thank you to all the nonprofits, as today we acknowledge National Nonprofit Day. Again, our last webinar is next Tuesday, August 24th. Our grant cycle closes August 31st. So thank you all. All information is on our website at www.blackfundersstl.com. Thank you.